All right. It says I am live. What is up? Not sure if this music situation is going to work out, so I'm going to turn it off. Hey guys, in the description of this video, I do have a link to our Discord. If you want to jump into our Discord and chat, feel free. Yeah, that's probably the easiest thing. I'm not sure how good I'll be at peeking over at the screen to see what's being said, but if you want to voice chat, that could be sweet. So it looks like Amari is in here. Amari, I completed your second team build today. Let me see. It's funny. This is like not going to be very legible, but my labeling system is people's initials and then a number. Not sure if you can see that, but it says CVS2. That's funny that your initials are CVS. So, yeah. Go get your meds at CVS. So, there it is. This one actually, I thought when I test flew it that it was somehow magically the fastest drone I had built for this, but I realized I've been flying my really old and dilapidated pyro packs. And these are getting really rough. But they're like 150 cycles in. I mean, I put so many cycles through these, so I'm just not wanting to bust out new ones until I/O. But I ran a good battery today. I ran one of these, which is a rebrand of the new Tattoo batteries. That's what I test flew this with today, and I was like, holy crap, that quad's so fast. And then I realized it was just the battery. So I'm going to get that in the mail to you tomorrow. So
yeah, no worries.
Yeah, you can start putting your stuff on it and see what you like. If you come up with a tune that you love, I can put it on the others, as I build them for you. So yeah. All right.
I got to thinking, we talked about that crossfire switch thing.
Yeah.
With the way the format's laid out for IO, that's not necessary at all, since no one will ever be in a situation where they're flying back to back.
Ah, but you could.
You could?
Well, what's defined as flying? So my understanding is that you have to make like the first gate or you did not fly. So
okay.
If you crash out, it could, theoretically, it could be advantageous for you to get the next quad out, but it's not likely, right? It's not likely that, like, I don't even think we would mess with having two quads for each, why would you even have a backup quad for yourself on the line?
Exactly.
But there could be situations where we need you to fly and you didn't make the first gate.
That's true.
But yeah, that was interesting. So, I know Christian knows what's up because he is in our team chat. Heart of America FPV. We are a drone racing team based out of America. And we're getting ready. We're gearing up for the International Open with Multi-GP in Muncie, Indiana. 1 week and a half away from right now, which is bananas. And we've got a team fleet. Our team fleet is powered by Hobby Wing motors. ESCs and FCs are all coming from Hobby Wing. Yeah, I've been building out these quads, trying to get them all ready. This is number 7 that I'm building tonight for our buddy RaceBot. Look like you and RaceBot had some fun in Nebraska.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was something.
Yeah, so like that's 2 weekends in a row you guys raced without me over concrete. Are you getting tired of that yet?
Where was the other place we raced over concrete? I'm trying to remember.
Wasn't Wichita over concrete?
No, we had grass for that one.
Oh, okay. It looked kind of concrete-esque.
There was grass, but there were some dirt patches, but definitely still preferable over concrete.
Yep. So the nice thing about building so many like fleet quads is, so I've literally measured everything out to the millimeter here. So like the motors are all, did you see that video of Callie helping?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So let me see if I have my tool. I took a So the motors, essentially, I do 30 millimeters from the bell.
Okay.
Each one you can see there. Well, your video is probably way late compared to what you're hearing.
Just a bit. I can see motors sitting there on your bench, though.
Yeah, but 30 millimeters is what we cut those to. And that way, because what I learned the last time we fleeted out these quads, I didn't put a lot of attention to that. And it kind of made it hard to swap motors because it was
Oh, yeah.
well, you couldn't, like, it made it hard to swap a used motor for a used motor. A new motor obviously was fine, but a used one, like, sometimes they were cut at different lengths. So that was
Right.
just a little thing that, like, literally every motor in this bunch is cut to 30 millimeters. Tinned, stripped, and ready, even the ones that aren't going to get built. And then
Right.
my pigtails, I did 50 millimeters. So it's like, I don't know. That's just kind of fun to know that they're all the same. And it works and it fits and all of that. You know, like each drone gets a little faster to build. But,
Start feeling like the DRL engineers.
oh, those guys, man.
That would be a job and a half.
I've been doing about 2 a day. It's just, you know, not enough hours in the day. We have
Yeah.
softball all weekend. But I don't know, starting to figure it out. And then this one, since I'm live streaming it, will be the one that, you know, completely fails.
No, it'll be good.
We'll be good. We got this. And
So
like,
you have
yeah,
the ESC battery leads coming straight out the back?
I do.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's how I do mine too.
Okay, cool.
I'm really excited because, like, literally the only difference between these builds are going to be 100 kV for me.
Yeah, well, and you know, these 2207 motors are interesting too. So, have you ever flown the Hobby Wing motors or seen them?
No, I've flown,
Close.
like, all last year I flew 2207 1700 kVs though.
Yeah, they so the Hobby Wing specifically, so we got, you know, half of the fleet is 2306, half of the fleet is 2207. Now, looking at the motors just kind of side by side, you can obviously tell that, well, not obviously, you got to kind of really squint your eyes, but you can tell that the 2306 is 1 millimeter wider than the 2207. But what's interesting is the bell itself.
Yep.
And for those of you that are primarily on the stream, you know, the 2207s are black wires, and the 2306 are red wires. You can, I don't know if you probably can't see, but the one with red wires is 1 millimeter bigger, you know, across in diameter. But the one with the black wires is supposed to be and it is technically 1 millimeter taller. The stator, at least 1 millimeter taller than the bell. But the interesting thing to me is that the flat part of the bell is actually identical on both motors.
Really?
If that makes sense. But you can see that the stator itself, the copper windings, that part of it extends down a little bit below
the bell.
The bell. And then the 2306 actually has a bigger hump on the top of the bell even. Like, it's funny. Technically, the 2306 bell is taller than the 2207 bell. So I found that to be kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
You guys can see it. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I can't, I mean, so I've flown these back to back, a 2306 build and a 2207 build, and I can't really tell a huge difference between the two of them. So,
okay.
That's good. I mean, I don't know. I haven't really tried to tell a difference either, and I'm also doing this. Like, oop, it's funny that. I was feeding back on myself. I'm gonna jump over here and share this to the Facebooks real quick. Building a team fleet. If any of you guys are out there watching this silently, feel free to jump on and share this on the social medias. Building a team fleet quad for @Tristan. I'm gonna tag him. Just because, like, look, man, I'm building your drone. Chat it up. All right, there's the YouTube link and then Discord link. Sorry. Gotta get the links. All of the links. So yeah, you flew this weekend, obviously.
Yeah, we got one more weekend. This upcoming weekend, the Elkhart one too. Tristan's
Yeah,
coming up for that too, so I'm excited about that.
that should be awesome, man. That should be awesome. I'm gonna try to find something somewhere or at home or something to go race on Sunday. Next Sunday I got off. I could do an
Nice.
event, so I'm gonna try to race in some manner. We shall see. All right, got that shared out. Sharing situation. All right, so back to the build here. If you're not familiar, this fleet is built up on the Flight Club Proton, the original Proton frames. I'm gonna grab. I built the first one for everybody with brand new arms, and then I've got some old arms that are a little dirty. We're gonna clean them up a little bit, but I went through and tested them all to make sure they were good, good arms. But we're building this up on the Flight Club Proton frame. The Proton frame is amazing. It's got this nucleus plate, which on this one is that black plate right there. Gotta clean off the old writing off of these arms.
Best frame ever.
Yes, it really is. I mean, it's so good, and I'm excited about the Proton R frames. I've got.
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm planning to fly personally, since
Cool.
we needed the team fleet, for everybody else. I personally ordered. I've got, I think, 6 of
Dang, nice.
the Proton R's coming, and like that's such like trust I have in Mike right there.
Oh yeah. No,
That
absolutely.
not he says they're likely going to ship tomorrow, so not just like
Yo.
getting them here in time, but more so just I've never flown that frame, but flying the Proton, everything on that frame was so well thought out. I have
Oh
the
yeah.
highest level of confidence for what he's designed in the Proton R frame. So I'm gonna build that frame out 1 week prior to one of the biggest events of the year, and
Nice.
hope it works out.
Man, you have a lot of building in your future.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So, I'm building 6. Well, I don't have to build all 6 for me. Um, you know, if I don't get to all of them, that's fine. I'll just take spares.
Right.
But I've got the 12 team builds, 6 for me, and I'm building 2 for Maddie. I've got one of Maddie's done. Since I've got a lot of extra parts now, I had no problem sourcing parts for a couple builds for Maddie. Maddie's sporting the white noise boards,
Nice.
which are great. All right. I feel like I'm gabbing, not building. All right, so Proton build here. We got the nucleus plate. I don't know how you build this, Christian, but word on the street is that the butter mounts with the more current flight software, whether it be Flight 1 or Beta Flight, word on the street is that the butter mounts actually can make prop wash handling worse.
Oh really?
Because it's like it's almost too much filtering, or it's like double filtered. I don't know. I'm just taking everyone else's word for it. So
Sure. No, I definitely haven't experienced any of that.
yeah, it's way over my head. They fly great, so I mean, I'm just leaving it there.
Yeah. Same.
Leaving it at that. But
I know Mondo is doing this too, like putting the little butter mounts in the holes and then like cutting them in half and using a second one above it for like spacing.
yeah, yep. So
just to keep the ESC away from the aluminum.
Yep. So I got rid of all of that. So the Hobby Wing stack there, the ESC has its own rubber grommets.
Oh wow! Yeah, I see that.
And the FC has its own rubber grommet. So what I'm doing is actually just take nylon nuts, and I'm putting that over the mounting screws to give us.
Gotcha.
I'm guessing that's like, I can measure it here. 3 millimeter M3 nylon nuts. So I'm giving us that little bit of space there, and then it also locks those mounting screws down so they don't try to spin on you when you're putting the nuts on top.
Right.
But yeah, so nylon nuts right there. Oh, you guys can't see all my building tools. I have to. This is kind of funny. This is a little tool I have right here. Piece of plastic. It's actually the what the Hobbywing stuff comes in. I cut it down so it can hold my ESC, and then I've got a little bit of Loctite in there. And I've got that little case with pretty much all of the screws and hardware I need to build these protons, kind of all in one spot, because I'm trying to replace as much of the hardware as possible. I'm not replacing the stack screws because I don't have any other 20 millimeter screws, so like these are all rusted, but they don't really do anything, so I'm not super concerned about it. But yeah.
So I'm trying to remember what you said. So we're providing our own props, batteries, camera, and antennas.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And I have antennas I can help you out with.
I have a
Yeah, and then we've also got Azure Props is sponsoring our team as well. But we're not.
Oh, really?
You're not required to run those. They just wanted to give us their newest racing prop to check out, and it's pretty amazing. So if anyone wants to run those, we've got them in abundance.
Cool.
I'm switching over to them even from the Hulkies. So when I went through, I don't know, what was it, a month ago? Maybe 2 months, month and a half now, and tested like every prop I could get my hands on.
Yep.
It was when I moved away from the HQ 5141s, but the Azure props, the Azure Power 5155s or whatever they were, those and the Hulkies were almost identical, but I felt like the Hulkies beat them on durability.
Okay.
But these new Azure props seem like they've really stepped up the durability. So I'm gonna run those because they're free and they're amazing. So that sounds like a good combo to me. Put this back. Now, for anyone watching the stream, this is funny. So my oldest daughter and me today, we went through and we prepped all of the motors. They're literally on a baking sheet because that's all I had close by to like load them up. But we went through and cut every motor wire to length and stripped them and tinned them. And yeah, it's just pretty funny. Pretty funny. All right, put that back. All right. So we got the starts to the nucleus plate here. I'm going to pop our ESC out of the little plastic, which can be the hardest part of this build. There we go. So there's that. And then I got to track down. I love the nucleus plate for 1,000 reasons. One of them is that it literally gives you a mounting spot to hold your stuff while you solder it up. You know what I mean? So I actually, I plop the ESC down on that nucleus plate, and it, holds onto it for me while I solder it, which is pretty primo. Who else is there? Vince Weber says, "Sup, shames," in the chat. Vince, if you want to stop into Discord, that'd probably be the easiest thing, just because I'm not able to, I'm looking at these little parts, trying to keep my back from hurting. I won't be looking over at the computer too much, but thanks for stopping in. Excited to get this fleet built.
Scott's here.
Yep.
Maybe.
So, love this ESC for a lot of reasons, but one of them is it's got, pre-made holes there for our capacitor. So you just pop that capacitor in there, find our solder, and I go ahead and tin these up so it's a little easier to get the pigtail on.
The Hobbywing ESC has dedicated mounting holes for a capacitor.
Yeah, I love it.
That's awesome.
It's just right there at the battery terminal,
We legit have been drilling through ours with a really small drill bit.
Oh, are you running Acons, or what have you been running?
We're running what's it called, the Hollybro Tico 32s.
Ah, cool. Yeah, they're the perfect spacing, and it just pops in there. You solder it down, pop it off, and flush cut the ends. Now these ends can be brutal to motors, so I try not to leave them around the desk because they get caught up in the magnets, the ends of the capacitors.
Yeah.
That's just the little light kind of metal that can ruin your day. But pop that back down. Here's our pigtail. This is always one of the hardest things for me. And because I do cut the pigtails relatively short and it's a tight build, but getting, it's almost too much to handle with tweezers. But the pigtails get so hot when you're soldering them. So it's like burning your fingers.
I always use like a pair of needle noses to hold them.
Yeah, I should.
But then you need like 3 hands.
Right. There you go. That actually went really well.
How's it going, guys?
Dude, what is up? Is that Sky? Sounds like.
Yeah.
It is indeed.
What up, my brother? We're building one of Tristan's quads here.
Awesome. Dude, I can't wait to watch you guys rip it at I.O. It's going to be a good race.
Should be a ton of fun, man. We haven't talked about strategy yet. Kind of want to let everyone get through the weekend. But I'm trying to figure out, like, our crew situation. I haven't asked Jet, but my goal is to have Chet be our kind of a Jet. Did I say Chet? I don't know what it said.
Chet, you betcha.
But I want to have Jet kind of be our pit boss again, just because he really thrived in that role at Mayhem, where he's, communicating with everyone and keeping the pilots up. But if you read the rules, we're only allowed 4 people as crew within a 25-foot radius of our pits.
Does the crew include the pilots, or are they in addition?
Yeah, in addition. So we got
Okay.
4 pilots, and then we're allowed 4 other crew people to be there. I was thinking today about, like, I might not include myself as one of those 4. I might be 30 feet away and in communication with Jen.
That would, yeah.
And then that way, because most of what I want to do, I can do from, anywhere at the event. And then that will free us up to have 3 dedicated, crew guys that are, helping with the stuff. Because I know we've got, we've got Christian's dad and Keith, that are going to be there. I don't know. We'll just have to figure that out and see, like, who's available, who's going to want to be involved, that kind of thing. So
I think the 3-minute thing is going to be really interesting, and keeping track of where down quads and and batteries that have flown off and parts are going to be
right. Yes, sir.
I think you guys said you did something similar in Mayhem, didn't you? Like you made X's where you knew there were downed quads waiting for people to call timeouts.
So I've been using this to keep track of, like, what was broken on quads. But literally, this was the whiteboard that Jet went out and bought for us, and we drew the track on it. I know you guys are listening live, and you can't really see it on the screen. But we had this whiteboard. We drew the map on it in Sharpie, and then when a quad went down, we made an X where it was at, because the second your quad goes down, that's going to be your best opportunity to know where it was at.
Right.
11 minutes later, no way. There's no chance you can, and that was.
I had 1 or 2 quads where we hadn't marked it for just whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I just was going back and forth through the whole field just to find it.
Oh, it's brutal.
Like, you think you'll remember, but you won't.
Nope. Not a chance. Let's see here. And that was actually a minor piece of, I would say, innovation that we brought to the table at Mayhem. That was just kind of off the cuff of, like, okay, this is going to be a problem. What kind of solution can we come up with? And, there were a handful of teams that did similar things. I don't know. Those are the little things I get proud about,
Yeah. And speaking of innovation, I was at the last race, me and a guy started talking about like what some of the hardest, like what are some of the things that make it super hard to learn how to fly,
Oh yeah.
like a quad. And we started talking about like, you know how you have to mix roll and yaw to just get the quad to like yaw from the perspective of the camera.
Yep.
We were thinking like, how could you make that easier? And you know how Betaflight has the they have like the FPV camera angle mix.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, where it does that for you.
Mm-hmm. We were thinking about that, and like the obvious flaw with it is that whenever you change your camera angle, now you have to go reprogram your quad for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so something I was thinking would be super cool is throw a little board, like a back plate on the back of your camera that had an accelerometer on it, and attach that to a UART on your flight controller, and then have Betaflight measure the difference between the accelerometer on the flight controller and the accelerometer on the camera.
That's interesting.
To come up with a true angle.
To come up with a true angle difference. And then you could get really crazy, because at that point you could have, like, I have no idea what crazy application this could have in the future, but in theory you could have a quad that has like, it changes the camera angle dynamically, but keeps the controls the same regardless of the camera angle. So like if you were to put it on a servo or something.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't think that'll work though, because I don't think many people want to put their camera on a servo.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because my dad was just talking about something like that. That was the argument I made too. I feel like there's a lot of people who get very comfortable or used to having this input on the sticks correspond with this movement in your view feed.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know, like, when I fly, I have like a fixed 50-degree camera angle mount that just holds it there. And I know, like, if I have a crash and it bounces up even a tiny bit and I don't notice it and I go up to fly, I immediately know something's wrong.
Oh, dude, it's
so weird.
So bad. Yeah.
Like,
yeah, if you were to have your...
Akeem is tuning in. One of our Kansas City guys is checking out the live stream. What's up, Mr. Akeem? One of my favorite dudes to the Kansas City club up there. We had our Bill Lear Innovators Cup last weekend. I don't know if you saw that, Christian, like when we were all leaving.
Yeah, no, you were telling me.
Akeem got there, and I went and told Matt, I'm like, dude, the track's still up. If he wants to put down a time and try to qualify, like, let him, let him get his 5 heats and see how it goes. So hopefully we'll see Akeem in Hannibal in just over a month. So yeah, buddy. Do you guys use as much of this foam mounting tape as I do? This red roll, like.
I use the white noise board. I don't need any of that. I use solder.
Man, I use so much. Like, I wonder sometimes, like, talking to Tristan, like, my builds are heavier than his, and I'm like, where is this weight coming from? I think some of it is motors. The 2306s are quite a bit lighter than a 2207. But I wonder if, like, a lot of it isn't mounting tape, which is freaking hilarious.
Actually, I do use, instead of, like, using pins to solder the crossfire receiver to the board, I use really short wires and then double-sided tape.
Smart.
I stole that from Tristan. I destroyed 2 crossfire receivers trying to unsolder them from the pins.
Yep.
Dude, unsoldering from pins is the worst.
It's
You think you're so clever for doing it when you first do it, and then you need to undo it, and you're like, oh, I'm an idiot.
What have I done? I will say that, like, learning how to use this, and you guys are not necessarily watching, but I've got one of those suckers. Solder suckers.
Oh, yeah, I've got one of those. I feel like it's super hit or miss for me, at least.
Yeah. I've gotten really proficient with this one. I had to finally, like, tape it all together because it kept exploding. Like, you'd push the little, like, lever down, and the whole thing would, like, come apart, but... anyway, now that I've gotten kind of used to it, like, it rocks. And I took the time to, like, figure it out, because I destroyed a crossfire receiver on a white noise board. And I was like, that's it. I've got it. This thing's sitting here. I've got to learn how to use it. And
it's so funny. That's the exact one I have.
I've got the same one too.
I think it came in a kit of some kind, because I have 2, so it had to have come in some sort of weird kit. Like, if you guys have them as well, like it definitely came in something that we all use in the hobby.
I bought a really crappy soldering iron when I first got into this, and it came with that. So I know that's where mine came from, but they may come from other places too.
Yeah, who knows? All right, so you guys, if you're checking out the stream here, I want to show you all something about these builds that is less than ideal, but it's kind of the best situation. So our team fleet, for this event, it depends on what the person's control link is. In this event, we're literally half Crossfire and half FR Sky. And we want the ability to, bind these to different radios. And what we've done, I had a lot of issues, probably 6 months ago or so, where my Crossfire receivers were interjecting 900 megahertz noise into my video with these big, thick bands. And so I set out to get my Crossfire receiver as far away from my actual video system as possible. So I started mounting them to the bottom of the ESCs. And this, this team fleet's no exception, but the Proton build gives us this nice little window that's just so if you're watching the stream here, let me kind of show you. I'm going to kind of put this sandwich together to show you what it's going to look like. But I've learned to position the RX exactly where the window on the carbon base plate, you can look through it and you can exactly see the bind button.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's clever.
Because otherwise, there's no way to bind it. But it does suck because you got to take the pad off, and you got to take your battery strap out. But fortunately, the Proton's pretty good with your battery strap. Like, it's not super hard to get in and out. And, that pad's probably the hardest thing is when it's nice and sticky, like, it does not want to come off. But that's how we do that. So I've got my RX wires coming out the front of the ESC. I've got my RX antennas coming out the back. We'll put some care into where they go later on. What do we want to do next? Let's work on the motor situation and get us some custom race wire. Big time shout out to Kevin Lee from White Noise FPV. He made us a lot, like 600 individual pieces of custom Heart of America race wire for like 4 cents each or something really ridiculous. And in this build, you may or may not know, we'll talk about it later, but in this build, it actually requires 5 pieces of race wire to get her done. So we've got some special hobby wing magic happening here in this build. But once again, back to
it's got a staggered pad too.
Yeah, we're not using it staggered though, because that goes back to like serviceability of motors. Like I feel like when you cut them staggered, it just makes them kind of more of a pain in the butt to use in other places.
Yeah.
When the motor wires are staggered, and it was also like, who wants to cut, 2 motor wires to 30 millimeters and 1 to 28? So
I was always curious, what was the thought process of making them like that in the first place? Were people having problems bridging?
Yeah. Yep. I think.
Oh.
Like anything though, once you spend,
You just get good.
time, get good. It does suck sometimes, and if you're in a hurry, but like when I try, I have no issues getting them not to bridge. So, prep these suckers up.
Man, it's too bad the plugs are so expensive.
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here listening to all these issues, like, not a problem with plugs, but then the money.
Right, and like for personal builds, I would do it. You know what I mean? 6 quads is one thing,
Right.
or like 4 quads.
But a whole team fleet?
Yeah, 12 is a little much, and then like you want to have spares, and you want to put them on your
Yeah.
spare motors. Like,
I think it's like $1 per or something like that.
right, exactly.
Speaking of MR30s, we convinced over the last 2 weekends, we convinced Keith and Tristan to switch their builds over to them.
Oh, cool.
Because I kept like breaking an arm at that like high speed, ridiculous full throttle race,
Yeah.
and I would be flying the same quad like 5 seconds later. It's like, how are you doing that? Like, two screws in the proton and like one connector.
I had the most disappointing experience that was similar at this last race. It was like, I was on that last lap and I was just about to hit a really hot time for TQ, and I just plowed into the ground right at the start finish.
Oh.
And you could hear the snap from like a mile away. You're like, oh, I broke something. And I was like, oh, it's no big deal. It's just going to like pull out at the plug. Well, then I just realized how crappy I did my soldering on that quad, because the solder joints all broke right at the ESC.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So, props to Hobbywing for making a ESC that can withstand my bad soldering.
Man, are you running the 45 amps?
I believe so. That's not their new one, right? That's the one prior.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I'm running right now.
And that's what these are. And I've been pushing, I'll tell you, until I started building these team fleets, until we got the mother load, I'd only ever had one. And I've been abusing the crap out of it to like no avail. Like I just can't break it. It's been really
yeah, they've been pretty good to me.
I thought I might have broke one today on one of my Flight 1 builds, but I threw a magnet in a motor, like, because the quad did like a really weird, like, well, it dipped because the motor seized up. I didn't know at the time. I thought maybe the ESC blew or something, and then I lost power, which made me think there was something on fire. But it was like, the motor locked up, quad crashed, battery ejected, so it wasn't anything too bad.
No ESC. That's good.
Dude, and even with my crappy ESCs, like so many times, my quote-unquote ESC problems end up being motor problems. Like,
yeah,
because what happens if you got a touchy motor, and like you've got an like a brand new ESC. This is gonna sound stupid if someone's smart. Well, for everyone that's smarter than me, if you've got I feel like a brand new ESC can handle a lightly smoked motor better than an old ESC. So like, sometimes you put a new ESC on and you get a lightly smoked motor and it'll be fine for a few packs. But then, once you break that ESC in, then it starts becoming susceptible to the desyncs and stuff from a lightly smoked motor. It just seems like
I can see that.
Most of the time I've had issues, it almost always comes back to be like a motor issue.
And certainly you're damaging the ESC when you run a motor that's like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Is there any like technical way to identify a smoked motor versus just visually inspecting black coils?
I think Bardwell had a video that did that.
Yeah.
And I can't remember how he did it.
Was it just resistance measuring, I want to say?
I think it's like it's you got to have specialized equipment to get to see the differences. Yeah.
The trick that I know that you can do that works a lot of the time, but not always, is like if you have the motor not connected to the ESC and you have none of the wires touching and you spin the motor, it should spin freely with very little resistance. Then touch two of the wires together, but not the third, and try to spin it, and you should feel resistance. And then touch the two other wires to make sure there's resistance. That's the way I always do it.
Yeah.
Nice.
I just remembered something too. If you just take a motor and like my dad has a drill press that has a tachometer on it for RPM. So I'm pretty sure you could just chuck the bell or just grab onto like the shaft of it and spin it at some X number, like 1,000 RPM or something, and then take a multimeter to the outputs of any two wires and then take another two wires and then take another two wires and do all the combinations, and they should be equal.
Nice.
Oh, interesting.
Because kV is a representation of, for every 1 volt you give, you'll get this many output. Like, so 1800 kV means if you feed 1 volt into each phase and do it in sync, you'll get 1800 RPM, supposedly.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
So the inverse of that is if you spin the bell at 1800 RPMs, then you should be getting 1 volt out across all the 3 phases. It's also a great way to keep vendors honest, because I think it was you, Sean, who was talking about or heard that conversation with Chief and Tristan, and they were trying to figure out like why Pyro's motors are sometimes like 1722 kV, but they're actually like 15 or 1600 kV, or I don't know.
Oh yeah. Hey, looks
Something
like we
weird
got
like that.
Night Fury in the YouTube chat. So teammate, he's gonna help us get that win in Muncie. So big time shout out to Sean Taylor checking us out, 2-time national champion, and the fastest old guy alive, for sure. Yeah, but no, mini quad test bench had some of the 1722 kV highlights at like 1560 kV, which was
Dang.
very interesting.
I have not went to that website in probably 2 years. I'm gonna go
Dude,
to that.
I love that website. It is my favorite website.
Yep.
I read like all of his content. I have 2 years of content to catch up on. I'm so happy. I completely forgot he even existed.
Yep.
They're
Confirm
doing
that
sick
data
though.
for me if you see those hyperlights. But
Yeah.
I think it was like 15 something, which was surprising. Now, I don't know, guys. Like, when I hear a high KV 6S setup, to me, all I hear is inefficiency. Like, even the sound it makes is flat props. You know what I mean? So, like, I think I venture to say that, like, we're kind of getting away from ourselves with, trying to, go ultra high KV, and I think it's all lines,
That depends. I mean, are you trying to do a 1 minute run, or are you trying to do a 2 minute run?
Well, even still, like, is 60,000 RPMs with flat props going to be faster than 40,000, RPMs with a steep prop? You see what I'm saying? Like,
That's true.
If you're because quads make such a weird sound whenever
They make the Night Fury cry.
a little bit, not to pick on our teammate there, but yeah, like it doesn't, it just doesn't sound healthy, and I don't know enough about it. I could be wrong, but I worry that we're wasting, efficiency, but I don't know. I'm not that fast. I can't.
Yeah, of course. Like when you flatten out the props, your speeds dropping terrible.
Hey, and
Your
he's
mic
here.
is
He's
cut.
in the chat. He's live with us.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
The man, the myth, the legend, the fastest old guy alive.
The oldest fast
The
guy.
oldest fast guy.
You
Oh, no.
Oh man,
Yeah, I
Mike
definitely-
is there.
Definitely think that you're definitely leaving efficiency on the table. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
for sure.
The only question comes down to, are you losing power?
Right.
You are.
You
Yeah.
think so?
Yeah, we've clocked.
Oh, interesting.
We're losing about.
I think you've got your volume of your
Minimum.
mic cut
Yeah,
off.
your
too low.
minimum mic cutoff is way too low.
Oh, sorry. I'm just on the phone. Is that better when I talk right into the phone?
Yeah.
Yep, that's better.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I about power.
It was better.
We lost it again.
20%. 20% top.
Is what you lose by doing ultra high.
Yeah, just the flattening out the prop.
Yeah.
It's just more of a psychological war cry
Hey.
to it.
Yeah.
But that's all. It actually is quite a.
I just want, like I said, I just kind of wonder, like, what's happening. I've heard other people smarter than me talk about, like, when as the tip of the prop reaches the speed of sound, like, yada yada yada, and that stuff's way all over my head. But some of Vanover's setups that I've heard, or like your setups at Mayhem, and even some of the stuff Chief was doing high KV 6S stuff at Oasis, and it definitely looked faster, but it just sounded unhealthy. I don't know. And it could be in my head as well.
I tell you what, I think Sean's definitely right about the psychological thing, though. 'Cause,
Right.
when was it? It was the regional final, not last year, but the year before. Sean's wife was flying in our regional final, and she let out like, I think it was, but like I just remember hearing just the war cry of all war cries, just all the way down that straight. And it was the craziest sounding noise, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, what is that?" Blah blah blah.
Yeah. The war.
I don't think mini quad test bench has any what's it called, low KV.
Yeah, they don't have the most full data set for 6S. I think they blew their load on the 4S setups.
Ah. All right. All right, so I went ahead and for anyone watching the stream, I like to go ahead and get the race wire attached to the motors actually before I even attach them to the arms. Just something I feel like makes it a little quicker in the long run. Those are the two wire harnesses that I need. I am a drone racing hoarder, so I put these little wire harnesses in a little bin because I can't throw it. I told you guys I slipped a magnet earlier today, and like I replaced the bell on that motor, and like I literally had pause before I threw that bell away. Like, why would
I'm a hoarder too.
Why would I even consider hanging onto a bell with a slip magnet? You know, and I probably have 12 of that same bell from Smoked Motors that, like, you know, just sitting in a drawer is so funny.
Oh man,
I am a drone racing hoarder for some reason.
Oh, me too.
I just can't throw stuff away. I'm hoping to sell a bunch of stuff at I.O. because they're gonna do that like swap meet, you know.
Oh yeah.
You got the Facebook page. Sebring, the only Sebring I went to, which was the second one, had like a little consignment shop that Evan's mom ran. Actually, most of it. She was like the volunteer in charge of it. And I sold so much gear for so cheap, but it was so rewarding to get rid of it.
Sure.
Just like random stuff I like had no need for. But
Nice. Is my mic better for you guys now?
it's way
Oh,
yep,
yeah.
it's perfect.
Yep.
Sweet. Okay. Okay. Cool.
Clean.
So I got a little quick thing while we were talking about the efficiency stuff, high KV.
Yeah.
So as you guys know, we ran our first attempt at our qualifier today, and we actually I know we were chatting about elevation. We were actually at 7,500 feet.
Oh dang.
We just found out. So I mean, I was wondering what the deal was, but my fastest run today, I hate to admit it, but over the last 2 months, I've been looking at all of my DVR, and while my 6S and my 5S high KV stuff seems faster, there has been one occurrence, one time in like throughout like for an entire day, one single time that 6S was faster than any of my 4S runs. 99% of all of my fastest runs are done on 4-cell 2350 kV.
Oh,
No
wow.
way.
I swear to God, and I'm upset because I'm like, this does not compute. This doesn't make sense. It
That's
looks
weird.
slow.
Oh,
I did a 42.4 on 4-cell 2350 kV 5141s.
That's insane. 5141s, which
Yeah.
isn't a very, not a super aggressive prop. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and it's just I don't get it. And even today, my 4S run on the global qualifier was faster than both my 5 and 6S, even on the same quad.
dude, I had just committed to not arguing about 4S versus 6S like a day ago.
Well, dude,
no
I don't-
argument.
Scott, wait, Sky, are you for it or against it?
Well, so I was against, not like against, but I just didn't think there was an advantage to 6S the way that people thought there was, because the supposed efficiency gain due to heat is about 2 or 3% when you're talking about the wattages and the wire gauge and all that we're using.
Oh, I didn't know that was the argument. The argument I always heard was it's drawing less amps, so it's more efficient.
Yeah.
Right. It's 2% to 3% more efficient, which is like nothing.
Negligible. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
But
couple
the battery
seconds
can
extra.
deliver more amps, so it will.
Right.
Like that, so it's actually less efficient. I like
Yeah.
to make that argument. Yeah, I like the
Yeah,
way
exactly.
it feels. But that's incredible, Sean. So my on the global qualifier, my fastest lap on that track is with a horribly bent blade on a prop, like
Really?
to where to where I had like vibes, and that's like half a second faster than any other lap on that track, because it's like I think I lost like my care of crashing. It's just like, oh, this quad's garbage.
Sure.
Like I'm just gonna go. But yeah, there's so much weird nuance like that. And talking about like where do we come up with the extra 7 seconds, like
Yeah.
I have no idea, but I know that my best lap on that track is my quad being slow because of a bent prop. So
Dude,
So-
so
who
I
knows?
think that's kind of my what I'm at. I hate to admit it, but it's too fast for me.
Right.
Obviously,
Yeah.
4-cell is where is just the speed of whatever that quad is and the way that it transitions directions and spools
Mhm.
up. That's where I'm at. I have found the limit that I just cannot fly. The quad is faster on 6S or 5S. It is, but I'm not faster.
So I don't know. Have you guys? I know Sean probably knows IQO, the Australian kid that flies
Yes.
the DRL sim a lot.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So that kid's nuts, right? But him and I started talking like race line theory, and something we started noticing was that like for the fastest possible line, depending on how you're flying, let's say you were to introduce no roll from the camera perspective in your
Okay.
line. Like you can do the theoretically perfect line without doing any roll. You could also do it with roll. But if you do it with no roll, you'll notice that you have to look. Like if you're taking a right-hand turn around a flag, you have to be like traveling backwards almost as you go
Yes.
around that flag.
Yeah.
So when you introduce roll, you can kind of get around that. You don't have to do it quite as early. But basically what it comes down to is there's some point when you have to be like traveling backwards, and I think that track especially accentuates that problem. So if you were to just slow down, your need to do that goes down a little bit, and so then your line actually gets faster if you're going slower. So I wonder if a literally slower quad is better on that track, given a skill set less than perfect.
Sure. That makes sense. So I've been watching a lot of live streams, and it's funny. Most of the 4S setups are outperforming the 6S setups on that track, on the global qualifier track.
Crazy.
And but
Well,
I'm not.
good
Now,
thing.
now there are those. There's the freaks out there. That you're talking the top 20%. Who that's it. I'm talking about across the board, like as a whole.
Yeah. That is
I think
wild.
quads are just too fast. I think they're just too fast.
Yep.
I think you're onto something. Well, good thing all my 4S setups are still ready to rock. I never tore them down.
Well, I that's why.
Isn't Vanover still flying, what's it called, 4S as well?
I don't know. I thought he had 6S builds, but I didn't ask.
He was one of the latest to make the transition, but I think he experiments with everything, 4S, 5S, 6S, different KVs, like, yeah, trying to find that sweet spot. But I mean, like Sean said too, like the mental aspect of it and just feeling fast is important. Like that can make a big difference in how you what kind of confidence you have going into an event. But who knows?
It's just so frustrating to me because I feel like I'm faster, like throughout the day. I'm flying 5S, 2150 kV, and every once in a while I'll go to 6S 2150 kV, and I'm like, oh, it's so much faster. Yet I don't fly with a timing system regularly. I always go home and I look at DVR later, and I'm doing side by sides, and I hit like I had this 4S run, and I'm like, okay, so I want to compare this to the faster runs, and I'm like, okay, so this 4S runs faster than this one. Then I'm like, all right, there's a faster run, and then it's faster than that faster run. I'm like, why the hell is this 4S faster than my 6S run? Like, I don't get it. It looks so slow, but it's frustrating.
I think another great example of like feeling like something's faster, but then having your intuition blown out of the water. My buddy and I did. It was about 100-yard race. It was down to a light post and back, and we did this a bunch of times. But I had a little 3S quad that was on, I think it was on 4S, versus a 4S 5-inch quad that was like, I don't know, it was 2300 kV. It was standard kV for both setups. And the 3S quad would beat the 5S quad every single time around this light pole and back. And the thing that we concluded was that it was just because of how much faster it cornered. It just cornered so quick that all the time that you would have made up on the straight it didn't matter.
Yeah, it's just not blowing past it as far.
Yeah.
So it's so cool to like, you know, to go back and analyze different data.
Yep.
It's for me, it's so frustrating because I get so hell bent on this is the way, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I've learned nothing.
Right. Well, and we got to remember too how young all of this is. You know what I mean? Like, how young this is as a sport. Like, we're still figuring it out. You know, like there's a lot of grace with, like, you know, we try to base what we understand on our experiences, but we just haven't had that many yet to really know anything. But
well, I have a question. I'm sure you guys have all kind of done this, like when you're just with your buddies and you're like, oh, I'll fly a 3S and like, or I'll fly a 4S on my 5S quad or whatever, and you usually win, right? Like it's like,
Yep.
oh, or it's so close because it's really not that big of a difference. I don't think. I think that there's so much more that's coming into play than just RPM and thrust.
yeah, for sure.
I do think at the end of the day that the pilot is the biggest determining factor versus 5S, 4S, 6S, whatever you're doing.
100%.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah.
And I've heard this for a very long time, and the more I fly, the more I think it's true. There isn't any one pilot out there who is able to fly beyond the limits of any of these machines yet. I mean,
Dude.
Evan's probably the closest, but...
I had that same realization. It was actually yesterday. I was just sitting there staring at my quad. I was like, this thing is ridiculous. This doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Hey, Sean, when was the last time you were at an event in the flesh with Evan specifically?
In the flesh, it's been the last IO, but
Okay.
my thing is I spent months and months and months with Vanover,
Yeah.
battling him almost daily, and I know how close he and Evan were,
Right.
even a month ago.
Yep.
That's what just gets me. I'm like, man, like I know how fast Vanover is, and I know that Vanover's about a second behind Minchan, usually per lap on anything.
Okay.
So when I'm like, I know how fast Minchan is. Like the kid is stupid.
And that was going to be my next question, because I know you know, when it comes to like an American that I can ask about Minchan, that you know him better than anybody.
Yeah, I've spent so much time, but I'm like, I'll tell you this: the first time that I was ever blown away was when I saw Evan at that in Sebring.
Yeah.
And the second time I've ever been blown away was when I watched Minchan at DR1. So I'm just like I know they're really close, but when I see that Vanover is right there with Minchan,
yep,
I find it so hard to believe that Evan he's leveled up 2 years of skill in a month. Like if he's making Minchan look slow and Vanover looks slow, I'm like, there's something just not right here. Like something's off, and especially because Evan's running my frame. Like I know which motors he's running. He's running the same exact gear.
Yep.
So it's like, man, what the heck? Like, but at the same time, Evan is Evan Turner. Like he's ridiculous. Like he flies the sim, and then he flies real quad the exact same way.
I know.
Like,
dude, fun story about that. We were doing the Bill Lear qualifier track, and everybody in this multiplayer lobby had been grinding it pretty hard, and we had like, I don't know, the top 5 or so spots, I think was what some of the people in there were getting. And Evan Turner jumps in just out of nowhere. He's like, "Hey guys, what track is this?" And starts flying it. And it was his 5th pack that he laid down the time that I think nobody has yet beat.
Yeah.
And it just was so frustrating because we had all just ground out like 50 packs on this thing.
I'll go look right now because I'm curious.
Yeah, he's fast.
I know IOQP had it for a while.
Oh, that's true. He may have gotten a faster one at this point. That kid is also ridiculous.
Does
what's
he fly
crazy
IRL?
too?
What's his story? Because I don't know him.
He sent me a video. I think it was 2 weeks ago, and it was like my first flight.
Oh.
So this kid has never like really flown IRL outside of the sim, and like he's already looking pretty decent flying IRL. And it's really interesting to watch because some of the like mistakes that he makes are purely just where the sim is not equal to real life. And once he irons out those, he is going to be nuts.
He's split S-ing at full throttle. And he's like, why am I hitting the ground? What's this? What's that?
Did you guys see his run on, what track was that? The Carnival track?
Oh my gosh, where he did the inverted upside down, like he did the ceiling part upside down.
Yeah, he's just flying like upside down for forever, and then that was just part of his line. That was insane.
Wow. Crazy.
I think he's going to be one to watch out for. Plus, he lives right next to BMS Thomas, so I keep telling him like, dude, you need to go to real races. Like, just you've got the gear now, just get out. Everyone there is going to be super friendly.
Yep.
And you're going to get to play alongside BMS Thomas, so there's no one better to learn from.
Do it. Yeah. So I wonder when. Well, first off, the New Jersey race. Do you know, Tim? Is that being live streamed?
Oh, is that the other? I don't know if it's going to be live streamed. I may end up not going to either.
Ah, okay.
Because my vacation times are what they are.
Yeah.
But that would, if I don't go to that may leave me open to be remote pit crew for HOA, which would be pretty fun.
Heck yeah. Heck yes. I guess what I'm getting at is, I push back and I've given, Richard a lot of flack online about his event and how.
Oh, yeah?
Well, I don't, I'm not happy that it exists on that weekend. I would be, I've told him personally that I would give him a hero's welcome if it was any other, day of the year, week of the year. Like,
sure.
Anyway, I do look forward to seeing how Evan and Minchan battle it out. I hope it's live streamed.
Yeah.
And there will probably be what's that, Sean?
It's going to be amazing.
Oh,
but
my gosh.
Yeah.
Minchan have already raced at DCL.
Oh, yeah.
Turner and Minchan have?
Yeah, and Minchan made everyone look silly.
Whoa.
So I don't know what's going to, like, that's what Minchan does. He only shows you what he needs to, and when he turns it up, you're just like, what just happened?
Yep.
I mean, Evan is that fast, but Minchan never makes mistakes.
Right.
You cannot make him nervous. When he flies, he looks like he's falling asleep. And he's going light. He literally looks like he's falling asleep.
At Mach 10.
Yeah. So it's just, you can't rattle him. That's the biggest thing about Minchan is you could try to talk trash and he'll just like laugh and joke with you, and he just does not care at all. And I think that Evan he's so focused on beating Minchan because that's really it. That's what he's got left.
Yeah.
Got to beat Minchan. And I think Minchan's just like, I'm just going to go fast. Like,
I
don't care.
I'm going to go fast in the U.S. It's going to be great.
Yeah. he's like, he just really, like, he just doesn't have enemies. He doesn't want to beat anybody in specific. He just wants to go fast every time he flies.
It's such a dangerous mentality when you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
Because that means that's all he's training for, is to go faster and faster and faster. And when other people say, I want to go as fast as X person, well, you've limited yourself. to as fast as that person.
Yeah, if you watch Min Chan's posts, it's always, I'm flying much faster. Like today, I've worked so hard and I flew faster. Like he doesn't. Yeah, exactly. He doesn't benchmark himself against any person. He benchmarks himself against himself. Like
Yep.
it's just,
Yep.
that's it. There's nobody else. Like he just wants to be faster.
Yep.
Oh, there's a quote around that, and it's like, losers look at what winners do, and winners look at what they can do. Something to that degree.
Winners and losers both look at what winners do. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, so how many like or runs have you guys done on the global qualifier? I literally did I think I did three free practice rounds and then the 2 official practice rounds, and I only ran it 4 times. The last time I just cruised behind Tang to just look at her lines.
I haven't done it officially. Oh, no, I've done it unofficially once, but I haven't done it officially yet.
So
I know.
Yeah, the first month that it was released, I had it set up in the yard, and I put probably 150 batteries through it. But I think I'm gonna run it again at I/O, and my goal is to not really practice it until then, because I think I hurt myself, not like physically, but maybe mentally. I think we can rely too much on muscle memory, and when you get 150 batteries through one track, I think, for me at least, I was relying too much on muscle memory instead of actively controlling the quad. And when we actually had our qualifier, I hit everything. So
that was my question. I firmly believe that I peak at anywhere between 5 and 10 packs on any racetrack.
yeah.
And I'm wondering if you think that you got slower by doing it too much.
Yeah, but so yes, the answer to that is yes. On that track, it hurt me. I think I peak out later than you do. I still have a hard time getting a track, in general. So it takes me It takes me probably, I would say I'm more like 20 to maybe 25 packs. But what I do think happened for me, because I did make some pretty big inroads when I had that track set up here, and I was pushing it every day like that. What I think it did do for me was it got me used to flying fast. So like my practice regiment leading up to Nats was I would change the track like every single day. I would fly a different track, and then halfway through the day I would start flying it backwards. And because I was trying to get better at picking up a track, because I'm kind of slow compared to most people at getting the track down. The only problem is that meant I was never really going at race speed. Every time I flew for that last month leading up to Nats, I was still at kind of practice speed. And so when I spent a month flying the same track, like, and trying to like squeeze out those halves of seconds in a lap, I think it really helped accelerate me, and that, that was probably my biggest advancement I've had, in the last year, was during that month, because I was going so fast, so hard. My brain, when the race would start, like, I was ready and I wanted to go fast because that's what I was used to doing. So
It's funny.
So what I'm thinking is it's like the way that I compare this global qualifier track. It's a UTT. It's a glorified UTT.
Yeah.
And we all fly UTTs like what? Like the sim.
Yep.
And you see all these fastest pilots emerging because of what? The sim. So it almost seems like the way to go if you want to fly fast, because what you just said it. You're learning to fly fast. Like we race these, we fly fast. We don't, like, we're not seeing the crazy technical elements that are going to catch us off guard, because we've seen them all. There's not much left.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think it teaches you to fly fast.
Yep.
You guys are going to like the next episode of Race Day I've got coming out, because we had like the perfect experiment where our chapter for the first time released the track a week prior, and the people who liked simulators grinded it really hard, and the people who didn't like simulators, or the sim it was released on at least, didn't grind it. and I was just kind of indifferent and just kind of wanted to see what would happen. So I didn't fly the track on the sim at all. And I learned it the day of, and my theory held up pretty well. And it's that, and I've seen this in the data too, the average pilot doesn't make a faster run than their fastest after 12 packs, typically. For a given day also. Over multiple days, that's no longer true. But that turned out pretty much to be the case, where it was after 12 packs, everyone was in the typical order that they would be on any other given race day.
Gotcha, regardless of the sim or not.
Regardless of the sim or not. But now this is the interesting thing. If you were to look at that over the course of multiple races, so we just had another race this last weekend, and I've noticed that a couple pilots are getting really, really fast. They're actually bumping up spots, and they happen to be the pilots who are simming or practicing. And I think it just comes down to simming is good stick time. So the pilots that are getting stick time are getting faster over the course of multiple days, but they're not getting faster over the course of just a day. Or at least not enough to bump them up a spot.
Nice.
Gotcha.
The biggest thing that I've noticed individually, and it doesn't seem to matter if it's on a sim or if you're playing a video game for crying out loud or just flying in real life, is, and I think, Sean, you alluded to this, was being engaged with the quad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like making active adjustments, being aware of what's happening. It's easy to talk about, but in practice, after you've either flown it, like, what is it? Sean, you flew Velocidrone last season.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how frustrating. Both Sean's actually. I can't tell you how frustrated Velocidrone started making me, because I would probably grind for like an hour or two on a track each week, but I'd do it in a single sitting because that's all I really had time for. And I would just get so frustrated because I could feel myself just like trying to just muscle memory cheese my way through it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I hate this. This is so annoying.
And I think it's actually that's even detrimental in the sim.
It is, because I can tell you there was one time where, like, straight up for like an hour and a half, I did not like move. I just kept throwing the reset switch, and I literally tabbed out for 90 seconds to watch a YouTube video, and I came back and destroyed my high score by a full like 3.5 seconds, and I just was some combination of mad and happy, and it's just because when I came back, I felt like I was actually like flying the drone now. I wasn't just trying to, and I couldn't force myself to do that otherwise, like in that whole hour and a half beforehand. It was super weird.
Yep.
And I can tell you when I'm flying fast in real life, I can tell there's something very different. It's that I feel like I'm engaged. I'm with it. I feel fast, and I don't know. It's weird. It's a very on or off feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
That is super interesting.
Yep.
The global qualifier has a lot of spots that I think you can try too much to rely on that muscle memory. Matt's boobs is one that you can kind of like, try to flick your drone around and do it like insanely tight, insanely close. But there's like you're guessing, right? You don't really see where you're going, and then also like even the split S, you can try to like take that with muscle memory instead of
I've found myself starting to take that like a 17, how close I can like fly through it backward, and just because you can feel yourself losing time if you float through the split S before you head back through the other side.
Yep. That's a big spot, and then someone mentioned the flags. I think that was you, Christian, that the chicane is one that there's a lot of time there too. If you can Night Fury that chicane.
If you can stay on the throttle around the whole part and not let off once you are about to go through the gate, I think that's huge.
There's a really weird way that you can take a chicane that I theorize is the fastest possible way to take a chicane. And it's basically like if you were to move the sticks outward from each other and then inward to each other and like pure roll from the camera perspective, it feels like when you take a chicane, you can feel yourself kind of slow down when you change directions each time.
Yeah.
If you do just roll, if you can get it right, you can actually accelerate through a chicane. But it feels super weird and it's really unnatural. But if you get it, you're just like, whoa, what was that?
Yeah.
I'm imagining in my head in 3D space how that works. Okay.
Because, like,
Weird.
roll from the camera's perspective, it's like offset. So that's like, I guess you essentially want to rotate. Like if you hold your drone at 45 degrees and then you shoot an axis straight down through it, that is the perfect axis to rotate on while you are going through chicane, theoretically.
Sure.
Actually, wait, no, that's...
Now my head hurts.
Never mind. That's... Well, you gotta just try it. It's weird.
I want to see like
weird.
a stick overlay in a sim of you doing what you're talking about to explain it.
I'm on my sim right now. And it like definitely looks weird. I guess it's not a perfect roll. So it's like kind of in between if you were trying to just roll the quad and just yaw it from your perspective.
I think I can kind of see what you're saying. You know what I've gotten really bad at is overdoing my row in my slaloms. I used to not do that so much, but for some reason now I'm over like exaggerating the left rights. And I don't know why I've done that, but I do know now to crash less at slaloms when I do that.
Yeah, it's definitely lower risk to do it that way. And then, of course, the unnatural way to do it that I theorize could be faster is like, it's not very safe.
Yeah, it's almost like a straight line, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty straight line. And it definitely, like, it's completely unfeasible for offset slaloms. Like, there's no real way to do it for those.
Yeah. Oh, something that I noticed today every once in a while is I would exit out of, I guess it would be gate 2, the first elevated gate.
Yeah.
And I was coming almost over the flag spiral section.
Yep. I did the same thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was wondering, I'm like, because I flew it on the sim like 2 months ago when it first came out, and then I haven't touched it because I knew that I'd probably do terrible if I kept trying it.
Mm-hmm.
But I legitimately, today was the first day I did it for real, and I was like, oh man, this thing's tight. Like I was thinking it was more open for some reason.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the gate right before Matt's boobs?
No, he's talking about the elevated gate before that gate. Like, so when you come out of the elevated gate, I would do the same thing. I would swing out over Matt's boobs, essentially.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you ran it yet in real life, Christian?
Not in real life, no. I've been practicing it between me and my neighbor's yards for a while.
It feels very tight. That section feels very, very tight. And I think like, if you can swing around and do that third gate, like, and cut it and keep it close, obviously that's probably the best bet. And then keeping the hairpin in Matt's boobs close, I think, is pretty key as well. And then
yeah, exactly. That when I had my best run, I would come through that, and it would seem like that gate before Matt's boobs was almost like it was just a flag.
Like you almost see it blind, I've done Tim's version of that where you don't actually go through it, but trying to cut it so close, where your butt just kind of goes in it and then you go out the wrong side of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's blind too. That's one of those spots where muscle memory gets you.
I've done it on accident quite a few times.
Yeah, you're very blind going to that gate if you're trying to take it too close. But
dude, but it's actually really cool when you think about it, because in the past, the qualifiers and people at different tracks, this and like people are like able to talk and compare and we know exactly what we're talking. Like it's
Yeah.
the way that they're doing the qualifying this year is for sure going the right direction.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I would say I have been a little disappointed, and I was a big proponent, and you know, I don't think they did anything wrong. We're figuring this stuff out, but I'm not the biggest fan of top 3 consecutive. On paper,
No, neither am I.
On paper,
I don't think that's-
I
yeah.
loved it. I loved it on paper, but in practice, it's a little too UTT for me.
Yep.
But
We started doing that locally for all of our races, and I'm just not the biggest fan. It just turns into speed runs.
right.
Like the first thing I do when I take off for 90% of our races is do a giant backflip and
Yeah.
take the Johnny FPV run up,
Yep.
or just
Yeah,
like sit on
but
the
here-
block.
Here, I'll tell you what. Like, I really enjoyed the track when we weren't racing it. But the second, you have to have a minimum of 3 pilots, and there's some leagues are doing. You know, they have 8 pilots. Dude, it is the biggest mid-air cluster of a freaking racetrack. I'm just like, what? Like, this is a time trial, yet we're playing dodge the freaking quad for 2 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
Yo,
if there's one quad that gets you off that line for that 3 lap, you're done. It's like, okay, that's that.
Well, it doesn't count. It doesn't count your time from the second you take off the blocks to the gate, if I remember correctly.
correct. That's correct.
That's
So
part
what
of
you
2
should-
minutes, but it's not part of your lap.
Right. So now is your last lap done? Like, does every pilot get 2 minutes from the point they cross the gate?
No.
Because that's how live time does it.
Well, it's
No,
not. It's
the
not
way
set up to be staggered start.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
I got you.
All right. So on this, on our fleet build on Tristan's quad, I've got all the motors soldered up. When you guys, am I the only one that when I see an ESC with all the motor wires soldered, it makes me think of like a V12?
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
The pipes coming off of it.
Especially with the orange wires.
It looks sexy.
Yep. This is the other thing I've been doing to every build. So when I get the motors soldered up, I take and I coat the top of this ESC with conformal.
Oh, nice.
Just to keep solder balls and dirt or whatever else. Or this stack, Jordan told me, you know, he's the one that says really, you know, give pause to that SD card reader on the bottom of the FC, because a lot of the failures he's seen and, you know, calls he's taken on this where people have had trouble, there's always like a black mark on that SD card reader because it bumped the ESC and shorted. So I'm going to do this, and then I take the FC, and I'll show you here. Take the FC out, and then I literally put like conformal on that, because I'm you know, we don't tune our quads with black box. I put conformal on the SD card reader, like, just because that's a piece of metal, and then I'm also going to cover it with black electrical tape. Just, we got, you know, reliability is so important with this. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's one thing to be
Yes.
fast or cut weight or whatever, like, but we need it to survive. You know, that's the
Yeah.
that is
Team
the goal.
racing is like that.
Yep, survival of the fittest, and we've got the Vanover rule in place, as
I
someone
like
high
it.
up in multi-GP may have referred to it as, and that is that you cannot fly back to back. And
See, but the strategy didn't even work, so I feel like
it was
they could have
close.
just left it.
It had
It
us
was
on our
close.
heels.
I didn't know he threw. I feel like I heard somebody say that soon after the race was over, but I thought that was just like, oh, he flew 100% of their team's packs.
I think
He
it was
flew
like
70?
65, 70.
Dude,
Yeah,
over
he definitely
over
didn't
50% is still ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I think some of that is other guys on his team were having gear issues,
Okay.
which he was having gear issues late too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I was just mostly impressed that he had a quad that entire time. That's
Right.
difficult to do.
and to fly at that level, man, he's so
Right.
talented, so talented. But there's
Yeah, I was almost not surprised that he was able to maintain focus because it's Vanover. He's
Yep.
pretty fucking good at this.
that kid. All right, so there we go. We got the conformal situation going on. I'm going to jump in and talk more about this build too, because I've got my little Heart of America pit switch combined with a piece of white noise deal I want to show you guys. But the Hobbywing thing comes with these nice little blue spacers, so I'm going to use those. Put those on.
Hey guys, I got to run. Sean,
Hey.
freaking amazing. It's good chatting, guys.
Yeah, dude,
You too.
absolutely, Sean. Thanks for popping in, and we will see you soon.
Yeah,
You're
I'll
on,
jump
Sean.
back on
Happy
if I
Father's
can.
Day, Sean.
Yeah, hey, you guys too, man.
Yep. Good night.
See ya.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right, so spacers down, and then we need this first ESC wire harness. Oh, one thing that's really beautiful about the Hobbywing stack is that the pinout is identical to Flight 1 gear. That's pretty nice.
I thought you said that was a good thing.
Well, like, you know, in case you want to run it. I have a, so one thing about Flight 1 that's garbage, you know, one of the many things.
One of the many things.
Is that with Falco, there's no way to get into BL Heli, really. Like, because you can flash, you know, it has it to where it can flash clean flight, and then you can get into BL Heli. Well, anytime you flash anything on a Falco build, it erases your config. You know, because your config is only in the OSD, you know what I'm saying? So
Weird.
I was thinking about that.
there's that beautiful little stack. So beautiful.
As cool as that feature is, it's just completely useless for team racing.
Yeah, they've got to get I think it's got to be both. You got to have the OSD config, and you've also
Yes.
got a way to dump and flash and all of that. But what I've been doing is I've been keeping one of these Hobbywing FCs, or the one I have. It's on the bench, and so anytime I need to do something in BL Heli, I would just unplug the Flight 1 FC and plug in the Hobbywing FC, and then
That's
get
funny.
into BL Heli. All right, so here's the interesting thing, guys. Let me show you this if you're watching. So right here, I took a piece of our Heart of America FPV race wire, and I literally foamy taped one of our pit switches to the top of it. I'm going to tin this sucker up. And the bad thing, the thing that I've heard, anyone that says anything negative about this FC, it's always because the only way to connect your camera and your VTX to this FC is through the connector on the side. Like, there's not solder pads for either, which is kind of disappointing. It was a bit of an overlook by them, but all you need is a piece of race wire, and who doesn't have race wire in their bag floating around, and something like a pit switch, and it's beautiful. So this is the wire harness that comes out of the side of the FC. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different wires. The top one is your video in, so it's going to come from your camera. Your second one is video out, so that goes to your VTX video. This bottom one is your smart audio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those three, and I'm going to solder those to our race wire. And then the other end of the race wire, I'm going to send to our camera, our VTX video, and then smart audio on the VTX. Then the other three are power, so 10 volts for your VTX, ground for your VTX, and then RX6. RX6 is what we're using to remap to pin IO. So we're going to send the power to the VTX and the pin IO both to the Heart of America pit switch. So, and then go out of the Heart of America pit switch into the VTX, and we are all set. So it's really the sweetest little solution to this, because I didn't want to have to be repinning, 20 of these connectors. That would have made my life less than great, and I prefer my life being great. So, we'll wire this up, and I'll show you what it looks like. All hooked up. So, Tim, did you say you raced today or not? Or this weekend?
Yeah, I had a race yesterday.
Nice.
It was yet another one of those races where you realize there's a piece of gear that you've been neglecting, and it screws you. The gimbal on my radio.
Oh yeah.
What?
Yep. it likes to do really hard yaw switches when I hit a very specific throttle point.
Oof.
And if I just wiggle the stick around for like a minute or two, it goes away. So if I don't do that pre-flight, then it looks like I just have the shakes or something. But I got into the A main, and off the go tone, I'd forgotten to wiggle it loose. And so as I'm going through the start-finish gate, it rotates my quad like 90 degrees, and that was kind of it.
Game over.
Yep.
Hey, Christian, so tell us the story on that failsafe you had sending you out. I don't know if you saw that video he shared in the team chat.
What was this?
I'll Discord you, DM it to you real quick, Sky, or you can go to the thing. But so we were at that Nebraska Furniture Mart race, and all of a sudden, like, I went around a corner at the farthest end of the track, and it just started. It held the last input I gave it, and then for like a solid full second, and then it just like took off to the moon, and then it said bad RX, and then it fail-safed, and I got to watch my quad 100 to 200 feet in the air start spinning slowly and fly over and crash over a whole bunch of a whole parking lot.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
it's
know how
toward
you
the
get
end.
in a car. Like,
I don't either. It was definitely a huge blessing. It literally landed on this little tiny strip of grass that existed. Like, I wish I would have taken a picture of it because it was ridiculous.
That's insane.
Oh, I'm watching that part now.
So, like, I kind of, like, watched your DVR, and I was like, oh, nice battles, and all that, and I'd looked away, and then I heard, like, I was like, where's this music coming from?
Yep.
Comes in, and then I, like, go back over to YouTube, and then, I tuned in right when that happened, and I go, oh!
Yeah.
Wow.
My wife thought I burned something. Like, she's like, what's up? What's wrong? I'm like, nothing. Christian just broke his thing.
Yeah.
Like
No, actually, everything was completely fine on the quad.
Crazy.
Yeah, it literally like bounced on the concrete and like landed onto the grass. We weren't sure because it was obviously out of view, but.
So we've got our final piece of double-sided foam mounting tape that we're gonna stick on the back of the VTX, which I didn't love this. Ooh, do I not? I didn't have a top plate in this kit. I'm gonna need a top plate. Top plates are important. I'm not super excited about mounting these Dealy McDaddles to the top plate, the VTX and that little harness, but it was really the only way to get all that to fit, because the Hobby Wing FC, I didn't want to just tape stuff to the top of it because the gyro's right there. So we do what we got to do, but
to have a harness though is so worth it.
Yeah. Yep.
If you'd left the oh no, I guess it probably don't have enough room. I was gonna say you could use a little mounting hole on the pit switch.
Yeah, I thought about that, but the this frame is a little tight to the camera and to the back. You know what I mean? So there's just not a lot of real estate there.
Yeah.
But hey, there we go. Well, I had a Flight 1 top plate with a GoPro mount. I kind of keep in my bag because it's easier just to swap the top plate than attach a GoPro mount to a top plate. So, yes. All right.
All right, guys. I think I'm going to tag out for the night. Good talking with you guys.
Thanks for stopping in.
Absolutely. Thank you for building all these quads.
Yeah, man.
Have a good one, Christian.
Yep. Later.
Yeah.
Good deal. Yep. So your next big, I guess if you don't go to New Jersey, what's your next big event? Would that be the essentially Nats, I guess is what we're looking forward to now?
I guess as of right now it's Nats. There's not a lot on the calendar that I know of.
Yeah.
Although wasn't there some California race? that was going down?
There is California Clash. No one really piped up on that one, but it's the same weekend that would have been the Bill Lear race. So, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of interested in that. At the same time, I'm a little interested in the Buffalo race.
I haven't heard of that one either. Which one's that?
Did you go to that last year? Didn't you do the Buffalo Bando?
Oh, are they doing it again this year?
Well, they're doing a race at a fair, but kind of the same, the same promoter and stuff. And then somehow it's also some sort of qualifier for FAI. I don't understand that at all, because I thought multi-GP was it, but maybe there's two FAI teams. Maybe it's a Canadian.
Maybe, I don't know.
I have no clue, but in some manner it is connected with FAI. The only thing that gives me pause about that one, first off, there's no freaking good flights to that race, and it's over Callie's birthday, which we can celebrate that anytime.
Sorry, honey, Daddy's got quad stuff.
Yeah. Last year we were at IO for her birthday, so there's that.
Hey, what a better birthday than that.
Right. But anyway, so there's that, and then so it's at this fair, and if you look at the schedule, it's like set up tear down each day for this fair. And that just makes me nervous with a drone race to how are you gonna have a competition and it be a legit fair competition and you're literally setting up and tearing down each day. Drone race promoters have a hard time setting up once for an event, so
yeah,
I'm just a little sketched out by that, and then the fact there's just not good flights, but I don't know, that one's still on the radar for me. And then Nats, obviously, which Joe, so I had the theory when DRL announced their event, and that's something I might try to go to.
I want to go to that so bad.
Yeah.
Honestly, just to support them.
Yep.
Because not even just to support them, because it would be freaking cool, but also to support them.
Right.
Yeah.
But when they announced that, my theory was that maybe Nats is going to be that weekend in Phoenix. Maybe they're going to do that type of thing again. But Joe essentially said no. He said wrong month and wrong state. So that leads me to believe that Nats is going to be in October, because they had said September or October. So
that's interesting.
Or maybe they said October, November. I don't know. But it's not September, that's for sure. So, but then I was also kind of seeding Joe. I'm like, hey, be a good idea for someone to hold a marquee level event that weekend in Phoenix, like a Friday, Saturday race. Because
oh my goodness,
I would be
everyone's going to be there.
Right. Or it would push me over the top and be like, okay, cool. If there was a Sebring type of race, a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, whatever, and I get to stick around and Sunday go spectate the DRL race. Heck yes.
Oh my goodness, that would be the best weekend ever.
And we wouldn't have DRL pilots to compete against. Kidding.
Yeah.
And I think that'd be legit, honestly. So I like I said, I told Joe that, hey man, people that want to do races. But there was a part of me that was like, why couldn't Heart of America FPV promote a race in Phoenix?
I was literally just thinking that, if no one's going to do it.
Yeah. Just because that's the big hurdle is anytime you want to do a big race, it's how do you get everyone to get there, or want to get there.
Right. Right.
But
travel is hard to incentivize.
Right. I think DRL and MultiGP did a good thing last year in general to get people to go to Vegas, in February.
Yeah.
There were a lot of reasons that wasn't ideal, weather and a sim tournament, at the same time you're trying to compete in a national championship was less than ideal, but a lot of people came,
And honestly, I was surprised at how much fun I had at the DRL stuff.
Oh, it was beautiful. Yeah.
I had very little level of participation. I participated in the sim tournament as little as you possibly could.
Yeah.
And I had a blast. watching those races was truly exhilarating.
Yep. Yeah, the most fun I've ever had spectating a drone event. Like,
Yeah,
not even
hands down.
remotely close to anything else. So,
Yeah, I can't even think of a race that was that entertaining.
yep. And being people that believe in this sport and want to see what it becomes, that's why I want to say that I was at the first, DRL spectator event,
Yeah.
in the U.S., I guess, because Saudi had one. But
actually, I should give credit where it's due. The second best spectate drone race has to be what was it? The Clash of the Drones race.
Oh yeah.
That race was because after we got knocked out, I think it was who was it? It was Velocidrone and someone else.
The Clash of the Drones race. What was that?
That was the one in Las Vegas.
Thing?
No. That was the first team race that I participated in.
Sorry. Yes. The
XDC.
Yes. Yep. Sorry, I was blinking so hard. But
yeah.
But that was a cool event, wasn't it?
It was.
We just didn't necessarily get to spectate it. Like, it was hard to know what was going on, and like the level of exhaustion for me, at least on that, was like level 10. I
was kind of disappointed after we got knocked out, and I went and I just walked over to the spectator area, and I just plopped down in one of those seats that everyone was watching that final race in.
That's pretty intense, yeah.
It was super cool. Like,
yep.
It was weird because I was like, I had just raced as part of it, but then I was sitting there, I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty easy to watch.
Right.
Because everyone had the LEDs. They had these big screen monitors that were showing everyone's feed.
Yeah.
You had Scully on the feed. It was really well done.
It was a little disappointing that never came of, nothing ever came of that. Of like,
I know.
I was really optimistic that maybe we would get an investor to do a legit team racing league,
Yeah, I was hoping.
Yep. And it could still happen. I think it's still out there. We just got to get the money pulled up in the right areas and the right interests. But
yeah, I wonder what the financials on that were, if they, actually made money off of it or not.
No. I mean, that their whole thing, they said, it wasn't intended to make money. It was
interesting.
They you could think of it as like a pilot episode of a TV show,
Gotcha.
They wanted to put on this thing, gauge interest, and I mean, I could be so wrong, but that's what I gathered from it, I guess.
Yeah.
Was they were like, okay, could this be a thing? Because it wasn't even, there weren't, like, you couldn't buy a ticket to it. It was like only VIPs, like people that were.
Oh, really?
Caesars, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yep. So it was all like executives, entertainment industry executives. So, yep.
Yeah, that race, that was a good race. It had a lot of drama, though, to their, hopefully they saw how much drama drone racing can have. Maybe they'll think that's worth some money.
Yeah. Good for TV.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, man, it feels like with DRL doing a live event, it kind of makes this a big boy sport, almost.
Yeah. Yep. Little bit. Man.
Getting there slowly.
I think we're all optimistic about it. We hope that, we're investing our life into these things, and hopefully it'll work out. Sorry, I haven't been looking at the chat. I'm going to read some chat comments. It looks like Mash Tater said something he took back. Jake, that was a long time ago, but you said something about 4-inch, whether or not it'll ever be a thing. Talk to, what's the 4-inch guy? Indy, our buddy Freakin. Talk to Freakin about that. Seth Eakin. He's into 4-inch stuff.
He swears by it.
Yep. So, I don't know. I just haven't ever done it. Logan stopped by. Laughin' stopped by. Laughin's still in there. Let's see. Laughin says, Happy Father's Day. Thank you, Mr. Laughin. I'll be at I.O. doing my birthday. Birthday at I.O., Logan. It'd be like a true Brogan fest, huh? All right. If you wanted to show drama in drone racing, you should just do a live stream of Rotor Riot Community or TBS Lounge.
Oh man, that's
Yeah,
true.
we'll leave that there.
That's a different kind of drama. That's the kind of drama we get too much of.
That's the drama we save for your mama. All right. Yep. Drama, gosh.
Man, you're talking about that 4-inch. I do think there could be something with 4-inch.
Yeah.
I could really see it. The hard part is really just the gear, like finding the right ESCs, and then a battery of that size, and then not building it. Because a lot of the gears that you could use would be designed for a 5-inch,
right,
where weight is less of a consideration. But with the right setup,
yeah, anything is possible, and everything is awesome. Both.
That's true.
Sorry. Random dad jokes. Man, we're getting close here on this build, so I'm just going to tape the not the ESC, but the VTX and the little harness situation to the top plate, hopefully in the right orientation. We're gonna need. What's that?
Polarity on the main battery.
We might just go for it, because wouldn't that be fun?
Oh man, it'd be good for the viewership.
Yeah, I think we're good. You do get a little, like, this is the 7th one I've built, like, you do get a little calloused, you just kind of like, you're not really double checking much. You're just going through the motions, but
yep.
Cross my fingers, knock on wood, I've not burnt one yet. But getting this, this is funny. This is some electronics out of the quad that I caught on fire in my house the other day, because it's a little charred, but I tested it and it's still good. So we're going to go with it.
Send it.
Yep. I just got a little hot. A little hot right there. Oh, I hate this part. So getting the FR Sky, like, antennas through. I love this mount. I love where it mounts the antennas. I just hate the fishing expedition you have to go on to get it.
Dude, it takes me so long, and my hands are always, like, shaking, and I'm like, and it gets caught.
So a lot of times, I'll show you right here. I take my soldering iron and I ream out the back of that hole.
Oh, clever.
So you can get it more, like, at a straighter angle. Like,
yeah, it's an art.
Yep. Yes, sir. It's finesse. Is this an artiste? There you go. So there, it popped right through. Where there's a hole, there's a way. All right. Cool.
And it's too bad the Proton is such a great frame, because I keep having people at races ask me if I'm going to do more Zephyr stuff. And I'm like, well, I kind of, at some point, but I'm liking the Proton.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how those antennas mount. So beautiful. All right. Then got our little antenna tubes here. Yep. Interesting stuff. So, Sky, well, we're live streaming here. So I went and demoed drones the other day for the Missouri State Highway Patrol. It's pretty interesting. Yeah. So I've got a friend who's into, like, DJI stuff, a Facebook friend. I'd never actually met him in person. We have some friends in common. We were part of, like, a local aerial photography, like, drone group. And he works for the Missouri State Highway Patrol, and the Highway Patrol here is also in charge of, like, security for the governor. That's part of their thing, and that's his department. So he's not actually like a trooper, but he's into that, which is cool. But he reached out because they were thinking about maybe building something like a squirt to use with their SWAT teams.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, but like their use case I found pretty interesting. So obviously, there are SWAT teams and they have robotics and stuff, but those aren't very deployable. Like meaning that there's not a lot of them in the state. So
Mm,
when they have a standoff situation or whatever, what they made it sound like is a lot of times there ends up being this 12-hour standoff or whatever while you're waiting on the robot team to get there. And when they get inside, the gunman, the crazy guy in the house is already taking care of himself.
right.
It's been a dead guy in a house by himself for 12 hours. Like,
Right.
but they're, you can't send people in, and stuff like that. They're just at this, standoff. So like what I kind of showed them after hearing their use case, I think the drone for them is a tactical tiny whoop.
Yeah, totally.
That makes the most sense because they don't, and I demoed what the feed looks like, and for what they need, it's sufficient. So I'm gonna be working with them to develop a, like essentially if you think like a crossfire, tiny whoop, and
Yeah.
try to do some things. I don't know. I was even looking at like beta FPV stuff you can get with Crossfire now, and they've got one that's like an 85 millimeter, type of chassis, where you could get maybe a little bit more flight time.
Right.
But it's at a price point for them. Obviously, like compared to their robots, this is going to be like a joke. But they want something they could deploy.
They're probably spending as much as a car on those robots.
Right. They want to deploy it in all of their, within probably a 30-mile radius of the entire state, and it'd be a couple $1,000 box probably of all the actual equipment. But the other thing too is that little drone's disposable,
Right.
If you break it, you just throw it away and you buy, or you can make some minor repairs or whatever. But anyway, that's kind of exciting. I didn't set out to do that from a commercial standpoint, but it sounds like I'm going to work with them to become a vendor for the state of Missouri to where they can use me as a consultant. But
that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm like over the moon. I told them, man, if I make a few dollars doing this, you'll make my wife so happy.
Something interesting I was thinking about, because I was actually thinking about like using drones for hostage situations, and the weirdest problem for them, I think, is stupidly simple but totally blocks everything, and it's doors. They can't open doors.
Yep. And I think what they said is they'd just be bashing a window, but then doors inside of the house, still like,
but if you could shoot out a window, and then you can just fly a tiny whoop through that, no big deal.
Right. Yep. So yeah, we'll see where it takes us. Whatever, it'll be fun ride.
That does sound pretty cool.
Why not? All right. My harness I thought I was going to use for my camera was the wrong JST size, so I got to reset.
Oh dang!
Yeah. Oops. So let's cut that there. So we'll redo that. I hope this works out for everybody. Like flying someone else's drone, or it's their own drone. So hopefully, with it being drones that are allocated specifically for them, it'll overcome that hurdle of I don't want to break someone else's drone.
Right.
And then with them getting one in advance, to they can tune it or whatever. The big thing is I just want the configuration on the radio to be the same. Just because that was the primary reason we wanted to do this, was so that we could make sure the configuration was good to go. That the team, the fail safe and the team racing aspects were as they should be. But man, I'm gonna cut this too short.
So something, I know this will never happen, but all of the new FR Sky radios and their whole new protocol is actually ideal for team racing.
Yep.
Because you can now like do the model sharing.
Yes. That's crazy, isn't it?
It's
It sounds kind of
if we could,
complicated, but yeah.
I think once we learn, it'll be the same thing as learning how to like find a
Right.
receiver for the first time.
Yep, you're probably right.
But the theoretical application for team racing is pretty awesome.
Yep. I was obviously, the couple not live streams, but review videos I've seen, that's absolutely where my brain's at. Like, okay, how do we do this?
Right. But then it sucks because it's like, well, now you have to go buy a new radio and you're stuck with FR Sky radio.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just like, it's hard because there's so many other good radios on the market.
Yep. Yep. That's a bummer. Cool.
I saw another crazy video too with the new X Lite where the guy was flying the quad
With the
using the
accelerometer. Yep. That was wild, wasn't it?
I was just like, okay, that's the least feasible thing I've seen all day, but I guess it works.
Yeah. Well, like, I think that's neat for someone with mobility issues. You know what I'm saying? Rotor Riot had the pilot Uno on the other day, which is a dude that flies with one hand.
Yeah.
And he controls both sticks with one hand. But I think that's when I saw the not when I saw the video of the guy flying with the accelerometer. I was with you. Oh, that's cute. How would we ever use that? But then when I was watching that interview with Uno, I was like, dang, that kind of thing would be ideal. Where someone can control one stick, and then the movement, like that's the kind of stuff dreams are made of. So, all right,
yeah,
we're getting to the fun part of this, where I'm about to plug it in without doing any kind of
smoke time.
stopper. So it's time. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. Do you remember the YouTube channel, like way back when YouTube was like not what it is? It was like
Will It Blend?
Will It Blend? Yes.
Yes.
So you've poked fun, or you not really poked fun. I wouldn't call it that, but you've pointed out the fact that I was relatively predictably formerly a youth pastor.
Yeah.
And that was like my go-to video to play in youth group was like and in a game to play too. Will it blend?
Oh yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love those videos. Like, don't breathe the iPhone smoke, kids.
That guy was so cheesy. It was great.
And that's what made it so beautiful, I think, was it was so freaking cheesy. I forgot to put nylon nuts on the stack, but I'm just going to roll with it. I'll put them on. I have to take this back apart to take the camera out and stuff, and then to put the turtle fin on, but I probably shouldn't even put screws in the top plate, but I am. All right. Will it smoke? Yes. Anybody else here? Who wants? If we did bets here, who thinks it will smoke? Let us know right now. Pause the video. Don't pause the video. We're live streaming. But let us know in the comment box if you think it's going to smoke or not. If I did a good job. You watched. Tim, do you see on YouTube how long this is? Or are you still playing your sim?
Yeah, it looks like.
How long did this take us with all the talky talk?
2 hours, almost on the dot.
That's not bad. I've done them as
That's
quick
not bad
as
at all.
90 minutes, but so I always I have this 4S battery I use for the squirt that that's probably like, I don't know, 14 volts, like it's not charged, but I always do my initial plug-in test with it because I feel like there's less volts
and less smoke to be let out.
Oh, we got all the beeps.
Yay!
This Hobbywing FC gets 10 volts from the voltage regulator on the ESC, and it takes some time. So, like, the second two beeps, like, always kind of, like, psych you out. Like, oh, yeah. Am I going to get the last two beeps or not?
I love it. There's a guy at my group, and every one of his quads, it seems like, he plugs them in, and it goes boop, boop, boop. And then they all do the last two beeps separate from each other, even though it's a 4-in-1.
Hate that. I don't even know why it does. You know, some gear will do that, but I've had that happen.
So sketchy.
So sketchy. All right, so it does do that. Let's plug it in. I'm gonna do screen share and show you guys what this setup looks like.
I'm gonna head out here.
Yep. Later, Timothy. Take it easy, buddy.
Yep. Thanks for doing all the team builds.
Yeah.
I'll
Happy
see you
to do it.
around.
It's good times. Good night.
Adios.
Timothy Sky, and I'm not even going to try to butcher his last name. Good night. All right, let's see here. Let's hide the webcam. Here's our YouTube page situation. Let's get Beta Flight opened up. And let's make this less stupid. There we go. All right, so first things first on this team build, if you guys can see it here, we are going to connect, go straight to the CLI and type BL for bootloader. That's going to put us in DFU mode right here where we can flash our firmware. So come in, this is the Hobbywing F4FC running the Omnibus F4 SD. That's what it's recognized as there. We're going to run 403. Load the firmware. I don't think I need to do that, but I did anyway. Flash firmware. Now it's erasing. Now it's doing its deal. And while it's doing that, I'm going to look for a diff. Holy diff. Batman. Nope. Like I said, this is a team build for our pilot. I called him our MVP from Mayhem. And that was Tristan Gilbert, also known as a race bot. He was so good at Mayhem. Like, it was really a special performance he had there. We did track all the stats. We gave people, you know, they would get penalized if they had a lot of crashes, that kind of thing. But Tristan ended up being our best pilot out of our team for that event. So bravo, bravo, Mr. Tristan. All right. So restart Beta Flight. Now, I already closed it, but pull it over here. So I have diff files. I've already configured his first quad. This is his second one. But this is actually it's a full dump from the first quad I did. So I've copied that. I'm going to go in here, connect to the quad, go into the CLI. It's the exact same quad, configured the same way. So I'm pasting that, and now it's going to dump all those settings in there. This has his rates already programmed in. This has his OSD name programmed in. It has his OSD name, like his OSD layout preference programmed in, which is pretty awesome. So that's done. Type save. Now there is some stuff we'll have to get in there and do, so we'll disconnect here. All right. So this was copying from his #1 quad. So that's why the fail-safe position here, if it's not in position 1, it's fail-safed. But this one is going to be for his quad #2. So we're going to change this around a little bit. We're going to add a range. Also make that aux3. And now his fail-safe position is in the middle. That's really the only thing we have to change. I do like to go into the OSD and load up a font situation. But there it is. All right, so that part is done. How are we doing on a live stream? No smoke. True. Oh, that's funny. Sky bet blue smoke. That's hilarious. All right, so let's see, webcam. Let's bring that up. I'm gonna like kind of bring this. We'll do a little dual screen situation here. So I'll pull that up, and then here's BL Heli 32. Oh, we got room for everything. Room for all the things. So over here I got my quad hooked up, but the ESC is not on. Props are off, kids. Never do this stuff with props on, but we'll plug in battery. When the FC already has connection, it gives us those beeps pretty quick. But there it is. So we're in BL Heli here. Luckily, Jet, Jordan Timken, the two-time DRL world champion, is on our team. He is also the Hobby Wing go-to man. If you need Hobby Wing questions answered, he is your man. And I reached out to him and said, hey, what do we got to do here? And I'm going to close this and reopen it because I messed something up. So I like to click read setup. It initializes all 4 ESCs. And then now I'm going to change the settings that we want to do for all 4 ESCs. So Jordan said motor timing should be either 27 degrees or maybe auto. I tested both. It's probably 100% in my head, but I felt like I liked 27 degrees better. PWM frequency should be 32 kilohertz, and DMAG compensation should be off. That is from Jordan, the world champion himself. So I'm going to write that setup. It's going to write those settings to all 4 ESCs. There you go. The other thing I know from this build, since it's exactly like the others, I know that motor 2, so I just right-clicked on that. I need to reverse the motor direction there, so I reversed it, and I hit right setup. ESC2 is written properly. ESC3, same thing, reverse direction, right the setup. There you go, there you be. So this is completely configured now. So I had all of my settings for pin IO and pit switching and all of that. We'll get in here, I'll kind of show you. If I go to CLI and type diff, so in here, the pin IO stuff is set up pin IO. It also did, resource CO7, which was RX6. So here you go, RX6 none. So RX6 was turned into pin IO. So there you go. Pin IO was then mapped to the VTX pit mode switch. I think with this, I think that's the way that worked. I thought there was another setting too. Maybe it doesn't show up in the diff because it's like actually a default setting. The other thing we did that's different from stock is we went to the GitHub for Betaflight, and we pulled the data for suggested racer settings and put those in there. Just remember something too. We want to make some changes here to his tune. Now, Tristan's getting one of these drones in the mail. Ooh, that was weird. So he can fiddle with the tune himself and tune it the way he likes. However, wrong one. I think that's what we're doing there. He can, like I said, he can fiddle with this and make this the way he likes it. With that, I felt like it was a good starting point. For whatever reason, this is one of the builds with the 2306 motors. That's Tristan's preference. I feel like the 2207 motors, they do a little better with a higher feed forward value. So that's what's up there. But guys, that's it. Tristan, congrats on your new child here. I'll show you how I'm labeling these. I already showed you Amari's earlier, but just on this front, what's that, left arm, I'm going to put a TG for Tristan Gilbert. Oh, that's terrible. And this is his number 2 quad, so TG number 2. There you go. So tomorrow I'll test fly this, see how it does, and feel pretty good about it. Let me put it on the scale, see where we ended up. Now, Tristan likes light quads. Now, this doesn't have the battery pad or the battery strap, but let's just get it done here. Put it on here. There you go. 276. So 276.3. Not too shabby. Very strong quad. Very powerful quad. This Hobby Wing stuff has been absolutely bulletproof for me. So big time shout out to Hobby Wing for, you know, really giving us the drivetrains for all of these quads. Big time shout out to Flight Club for the frames. Fox Ear is my personal camera sponsor. Thank you to them. I exclusively run their cameras and their antennas. Our team runs whatever they like. Azure Power, thank you for the props. Those things are so clean, so fast, and so durable. And thank you to Kevin Lee. Kevin White's a friend of mine that I sold a house for. That's funny. Kevin Lee for the custom Heart of America race wire. So, guys, thanks for checking this out. It's been fun. I'm going to go to bed. Got to work tomorrow. Have a good night. We'll catch you on the flip. Later.